Morning, afternoon, wherever it is in the world that you are. Keith at Crypto Bullseye with an important update today on Polkadot. So this one's going to be more in depth because we're looking at Polkadot, and there's two things that I've seen on the charts this morning: a flashing bullish indicator as far as the indicators are concerned, and a flashing bullish chart pattern that I'm seeing. Not just on the USDT pair, but against its Bitcoin pair, indicating we're shifting further down the risk curve. If this one thing happens, and that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So we're going to look at the macro as well, what Bitcoin needs to do, what impact that'll have on the Bitcoin dominance, what impact that'll have on USDT dominance, and how that'll affect the total three going forward, because all of these charts collectively, they paint that picture when we can go risk on. And that's what we need to understand. I'm going to show you this trading indicator. I'm going to show you this trading pattern. I'm going to show you exactly what Polkadot needs to do next to really start outperforming Bitcoin. Right, we're going to talk about the two trading indicators, the bullish indicators, the two trading bullish patterns on Polkadot against its Bitcoin pair, against its USDT pair, and then I'm going to give you an explanation as to why it's looking like there's potentially going to be a shift in risk. So it is all about buyers, it is all about sellers, and you can see that Bitcoin's trading at 112,000. And one thing that we said in the previous video was this was the key important level that I needed to hold on Bitcoin. That level was 107,000. That was the candle close of the previous day before we got this 3-bar reversal. The next thing that needed to happen is this needed to hold support. That needed to be an RS flip. Come back down, held it as support to the T, and then we broke through the next barrier, which was 110,200. So that's strength of Bitcoin. That's showing that we're going back up to the next resistance point, which is 116,000. Whilst that happens, we're going to get into the trading patterns very shortly. We're going to get into the indicators very shortly. Whilst that happens, we want a rejection at this point on Bitcoin dominance and then a push down. This is important. That push down is going to show that there's a shift and a signal that the sentiment is changing for Bitcoin, for Polkadot, and for the rest of the altcoins. So that means people are buying less Bitcoin. That means people are buying more altcoins, and that means people are spending their stable coins, which we'll talk about very shortly. So the two patterns that I'm interested in. Firstly, this is Polkadot against USDT. It's trading at $3.10. Anybody that missed the boat down here at 62 cents, that was bought up very, very quickly until we made a base at this point here. Right, clues look left. Firstly, this is the next resistance barrier that we need to overcome. This was the previous lower low, and you can see that is exactly where we are rejecting from now. That is $3.10, and we need to break through $3.10 before we can push back to this descending wedge, which brings us on to descending wedges. You can see what this is during an accumulation phase or during a bear market or during any kind of downward trend is exhaustion. You can see this was the big move. This was where the bears had conviction. And then this was the slow grind. You're putting in lower lows, you're putting in lower highs still, but you're grinding and you're grinding. You can see we've made a base here. We've got the big capitulation. That was the market reset. That was recovered all the way back to $3.10. And once we get a break of this trend here, that is going to be really bullish for Polkadot against USDT. So people are spending the stable coins, people are buying. Polkadot, we'll go to the Bitcoin pair next, and you can see one thing. What are we in? A descending wedge. So this has been a long descending wedge. And once we get a breakout of this, and we're testing this very shortly, once we get a breakout of this, that is going to be a huge acceleration, a big acceleration in Polkadot against its Bitcoin pair, which would signal that there's going to be an acceleration against its USDT pair. So we've made a shelf here. This is the shelf that we need to overcome in the short term. And once we overcome this shelf, which is 0.000003096 Satoshis, then we are going to start seeing bigger swings. So that's the trading patterns that I'm bullish on. What about the indicators? You can see one thing here. We just zoom in. If I just zoom into the RSI, we can see we are putting in a higher low on the RSI. So we're putting in a higher low on the RSI. Flip to the chart, you can see one thing. You can see we're putting in a lower high. So that, my friends, is a bullish divergence. So we've got a bullish divergence against its BTC pair. That is bullish. So against its USDT pair, exactly the same thing. Stick it on there. Bullish divergence. Putting in a lower low, You're putting in a high low on the RSI. So those are the two bullish indicators. Those are the two bullish trading patterns that's showing that there's going to be a trend shift once we break these barriers. Before we break these barriers, let's look at the macro. Before we break these barriers, ideally, we want Bitcoin to start coming to the top of this channel here. We want it to break 116,000, hold that as support and start pushing up and pushing up, breaking these resistance barriers as we start banging on the ceiling. As that happens, what we want is a double top here, a rejection on the Bitcoin dominance, and then a big push to the downside. That big push to the downside is people flipping out of Bitcoin, people flipping into altcoins, people flipping out of stable coins, people flipping into altcoins, and then the new retail investors coming straight into altcoins. That is what we're waiting for. That would be a big drop in dominance. So the next thing is we put in a new all-time high, again on the S&P 500, signaling we're not at the end of a market yet. We're still putting in new all-time highs on the S&P 500. The Russell 2000, remember guys, this is high risk. And we said one thing, this was concerning me. This was a diamond pattern and we've broken out to the upside. If we'd broken out to the downside and we're held to the downside, we'd come back, tested the 786. That would have been bad for altcoins, really bad for altcoins, because this is outside of crypto and this is high risk stocks as far as the US is concerned. So it's the US small cap 2000. So we got a big push to the upside. We're holding that as support. And if we get another break on the Russell 2000, that's another indication that we're shifting towards an alt season. So we look at the ETH BTC pair next. And you can see what we're doing is we're in a bull flag. We're in a bull flag. What we talked about with the pennant, this is exactly the same. This is exhaustion, exhaustion. As long as we hold the higher low and then we can break out, that is a high probability move that Ethereum is going to continue to outperform Bitcoin in the short term. This is not invalidated until we come down here. That is a big move to the downside. We've got a high probability of breaking to the upside. So you can see we're starting to see a shift in confidence finally during 2025. What impact is this going to have on the USDT dominance? We want this to drop. We talked about it before. We want a lower low, lower close candle. That's what we got here. So we're expecting further downside. This is bullish. People have got confidence. The buyers have got confidence to buy altcoins with their USDT, bringing down the dominance of USDT, which would increase total 3. See how it has an impact, guys? It is just a shift of liquidity. It's moving from one asset class to another asset class. It's moving from stable coins into altcoins. So we can see that from this chart here. So those are the bullish patterns that I'm looking at for on Polkadot against Bitcoin, against USDT. And that is the conditions that need to be met for me to get the first signal that we're going to get an alt season and a big rally in Polkadot. Let me know in the comments, guys. Did you find this useful? Did I explain it good enough? If I did, support the channel, subscribe to the channel. It costs nothing. It's one way that I can grow, and it's one way that I can bring you great guests because I'm already starting to introduce myself with the wider YouTube community and some amazing traders. So subscribe to the channel. I've got some big things coming. I've got some big news coming, and I'll see you guys in the next one.